Hi, this is Shane with The Rational Trader, and it is Monday. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the 21st, and it's late. It's 7:46, so I didn't trade today. And in fact, this is the end of week for last week video. I wasn't able to get to it this weekend because I've been fairly busy looking at the analytical process that we are using to analyze the output. And I actually did something fairly interesting. I thought I built a machine learning system to look at the output of the first machine learning system. So like going 2 levels deep. I didn't produce anything that useful, but it was a very interesting exercise and helps me understand some things about what we're doing. So as a reminder, we take the output from the machine learning system, and we're running an experiment now comparing the top method against the bottom method here. So the top method looked across 6 4-week buckets, looked for common behaviors, and then used that. And we've been calling that conservative, though I don't know that that's the right term. And then the bottom methods, which is what I'm doing here in January, is looking at less data, so 3 months worth of data, 3 4-week buckets, looking at the behaviors that are more recent. And the concern there is that if we look back too far, if the market changes its character, we may find that we're missing things that we could be getting. And what the data shows is that the bottom is more profitable, but you have a higher incidence of those days where you take a max loss. And so the question becomes, okay, well, in reality then, how does it work out? So you have to be careful with this, because a higher incidence of max loss can take you out of the market, and you end up basically only taking losses and never getting to the point where you can take gains. So we're also trying to trade. We're working to a point where we're trading more markets, and to do that, it sort of logically, it would seem that we want to do the former here. Now the problem is that this choice of 6 buckets using 4 weeks each, using a bucket size of 4 weeks, is arbitrary. I just pulled that out of the air and tried it, and so that actually, the results for the time that I was using that prior to the holidays were very good, actually. The question becomes, what I don't like is that it's fixed. X number of months, buckets of X size or Y size, and what you'd like to do is do the same thing, but with differing time periods and differing bucket sizes, and get a better sense for how, from an analytical perspective, what's optimal. And you may discover actually that it's different for each market. The dilemma is that first you have to develop this process, which I've done now, I guess, and the actual analysis or creation of the data to use for the analysis, and then the analysis itself, is extremely labor intensive, and so that's not something that is sustainable. And so I've been working on writing a program to actually do that analysis for me with the same sort of tweakable input parameters that we use in our normal replay program. Not a non-trivial task that will take some time, and hopefully will yield as much benefit as we've seen on the replay program. So with that in mind, I want to finish my test here in January of the recent behaviors, even though like the last week was not at all pleasant, and then see how it turns out. Okay, we're going to review that in just a minute here. Let's see, did I cover everything? Yeah, okay. So this is a weekly view since we started this, and we climbed up to plus 2,000 and we've fallen down to plus 1175. Okay, this last week was not pretty, though. I would have to categorize this as sort of a normal down week. That's 3.8% on a $10,000 account, so not horrible. It's the one before it that's the problem, and so 2 in a row like that is ugly and really makes you want to question what you're doing. The dilemma here is that this week of 1.6 was, much of this was caused by an error in 6E. And so when I look at 6E, we can see, 300 of that 438 in that week is caused by 6E. So in terms of showing results, we have to count that because that's what happened. But in terms of making a decision about what to do, I really need to pull that week out and make sure that it doesn't negatively affect what I choose to do. So one way to do that is just look at oil. So we'll take a look at oil here alone. So CLH is what's currently trading. That was Friday when we were down. CLG, we traded from the week of 12/16 through last week. Okay, and plus 900, and then a series 3 weeks where you were just scratched out, and 2 of which were holiday weeks. So again, you got to be careful now that we don't let that skew things because volumes are different. Last week, a down week, 2.8%. If you are only trading oil on a $10,000 account. Okay. Let's go back to F because we started this in 11 late November, so we need to look at the previous one as well. That's F. So that was plus 500, plus 410, and then a small down week, minus 30. Okay, so oil looks okay. CLG. We need to see now as we get out of the holidays and get back to what you would expect to be more normal trading. We want to see now if the rest of the month works out or not, and if it doesn't, then I'm going to go back to this 6-month view of the analysis, and then we'll see when I can finish the program that'll do much of this work automatically. And then what you want to do is vary it, right? Use 3-week buckets, 2-week buckets, 1-week buckets, use 6 months, use 4 months, use 5 months, and try to find that sweet spot, assuming one exists, right? This is data science at this point. We're doing some data discovery. Let's take a look at oil by itself. Gold by itself. GCG9. And gold has been, running P&L is minus 90. Not spectacular, not horrible. But you ask yourself, given that amount of weeks, 1, 2, 8 weeks, is it worth trading? When I look at the chart and I compare it to, say, 6E, what I see is like 6E had more movement, and that's kind of why I got caught in lots of ugliness during this 1.6 week. And so with gold, which is you're really not taking that many trades. This is the number of trades per week here. So there's really not that many of trades being taken, and that's because that market is quieter. So we have a little bit of a similar problem here in that the market doesn't move as much, but the way, sort of the nature of that quietness is different in that gold will basically make one move and then build a distribution. And because it's building a distribution, we end up not taking any trades. So if you miss that one move, you've missed it, and then you end up staying out of trouble. Whereas with 6E, we weren't staying out of trouble, just kind of the way it was a little bit wilder. All right. In both cases, though, I think there's a similar problem in that there isn't as much movement as we see in CL, so it's more difficult to find those repeatable behaviors. All right. I think GC here is the one that is the market that next needs the most amount of work here to take a look at it and see if we can use a faster chart to find more signals that allows us to find more commonality. All right, so that's what that plan is. I suspect that, there's one other data point. I'm sorry. In oil, let me bring up my. In oil, I was running this bottom half here with the purple buckets, right? 3 weeks, 3 buckets of 4 weeks each, as opposed to the more conservative view of six buckets of 4 weeks. So looking back 6 months over time and looking for commonalities. I had members doing the top method and I was doing the bottom method. Our results were essentially the same last week. So there wasn't a lot of difference. It was not like, Shane, I foolishly made this decision to do this, to try this other thing. They both didn't do that well. All right, so if that's the case, then just at this point, just chalk it up to one of those weeks. Excuse me here. And then we'll see what the rest of January shows. We saw decent results across 4 weeks with the top method. And if I don't see decent results in the next couple of weeks, then I'll assume that I've gone down the wrong path here. I need to swing back to the more buckets approach, basically. Let's call it that. Now, I have a feeling, just the instinctive experience is kicking in here. I suspect we're going to end up with all the markets using this view that is more choosy, looking for behaviors that we know we've seen repeatedly, and just not worrying about the fact that you're missing other moves. There's other opportunity in that market that you're not taking advantage of until it demonstrates some sort of repeatability, and then you just add it in. I suspect we're going to end up with that on all markets. Okay, so in the yen, which I'm going to start trading live this week, that's what I've done. I've used the more conservative approach here in the yen. There's less opportunity in general. There's less movement, and it's less dollars per tick. So that's a pro and a con. But I'm using a very conservative approach, a 6 month approach, a 6 bucket approach. Okay, using 6 months worth of data here in the yen. Okay, so we got 2 more weeks here in January, and then we'll make a decision on what to do. And that is it for this week. It's a busy weekend for me. I will see you tomorrow. Take care.